Father, a question about social media use. Very relevant topic today. Had a viewer write in this email. They say, regarding the use of social media by a traditional Catholic, assuming he or she has the proper understanding of the three things necessary to make a sin mortal, is it a mortal sin to post pictures of themselves or others in immodest dress or behaving indecently? Should one delete these pictures and go to confession before receiving Holy Communion? Is it a sin, mortal or venial, to follow people who post pictures like this? Is it a sin to like these indecent posts, giving the impression that you think the posts are okay?
Okay, there's a series of questions here, right?
Yeah.
And the first one is to post?
Yeah, the first one, is it a mortal sin to post pictures of themselves or others in immodest dressed or behaving indecently?
In itself, yes, it would be. I mean, if by immodest you mean provocative, and again, by indecent you mean immoral. If somebody's acting immorally or suggestively, such that it would affect, even a normal person in such a way that it would be a scandal to them. In other words, be a prurient interest to them and awaken all desires of things that are immoral, fornication, adultery, and so on. If it's the type of thing that would lead to that, it definitely would be a mortal sin to post those things, because it would be a sin of scandal. Not only a sin of scandal, but it would be as many sins of scandal as people who actually indulged in it and were affected badly by it.
And Father, should one delete these pictures and go to confession before receiving Holy Communion?
I would say yes, they should. They would have to do that. That's what I'd tell them in confession.
Is it a sin to follow people who post pictures like this?
Yes, because you're exposing yourself to it and you're also encouraging them to do it.
Okay. Then is it a sin, either a mortal or a venial sin, to like these indecent posts, giving the impression that you think the posts are okay?
Most definitely, because again, you're encouraging them to do this. You're approving of it.
Okay.
You're giving an official approval of it. It's wrong. All of these are ways of cooperating in evil.
Yeah. What about the question of mortal or venial sin, Father? You said objectively these things can be a mortal sin. Could you explain that a little bit more? What's the difference between an objective mortal sin and a subjective?
Well, as she, or whoever the writer is there, they say there are three conditions for mortal sin, right?
Yeah.
There has to be something gravely immoral. Materially, it has to be gravely immoral to do this. And one has to realize that it's gravely immoral, and one has to will it anyway and give full consent to it. For example, somebody were to say, well, I'm going to steal, $1 million, I'm going to murder somebody, or I'm going to seduce somebody, or whatever. I mean, these are all involving mortal sins. So the matter of the sin is something gravely immoral, and they would have to know it's gravely immoral. And they would have to give full consent to it and saying, I don't care, I'm going to go do it anyway. If those conditions are met, and I believe they are met, in terms of the material gravity of what you've described here, then if one knows that it is gravely immoral and one wills it, gives full consent to it anyway, there would be mortal sin. But you see, if someone does not know it is gravely immoral...
Yeah, is that possible?
It is unfortunately possible today because of ignorance. People are not only not taught that it is gravely immoral, but sometimes you have even priests and religious in the classroom instructing them that it's no big deal. And I mean, let's face it, you can look at Francis himself. And Francis himself, right, the modernist in chief, the Novus Ordo, is telling you that adultery, it's not the type of thing that would keep you from receiving the Eucharist, right? And it's not the type of thing for which you would have to deny giving somebody Holy Communion. And so the whole level of sexual morality has been so degraded, and notably by the clergy, unfortunately, by the clergy of the New Order Church, that it is possible for people today to be ignorant of this. And it's sad to say, even traditional Catholics, even children raised in traditional Catholic families, themselves might not know it, or if they're confronted with the gravity of it, they might resist it and say, well, I don't accept that. Adamantly say, no, it can't be true, you're just exaggerating, you're being very prudish or puritanical or whatever, just because of the society in which we live.
Is there such a thing as culpable ignorance, Father? Do you think that is ever the case where...
There is supine ignorance. There's ignorance such that somebody basically has the idea, well, I don't really know, I'm not sure, and I don't want to know, because if I knew the answer was no, that I shouldn't be doing this, if I knew the answer was such that it's a mortal sin, I would still go ahead and do it anyway. So at least this way, I still have the excuse that I don't know. But they're avoiding finding out the truth. They make no effort to find out the truth because it would be, quote, inconvenient to them.
Yeah.
Wouldn't change their behavior, though.
What could traditional Catholics who do actually realize the gravity of the situation, they see, like this viewer says, how this really is a really serious problem today, They see this problem. They want to do something about it. They want to inform these poor people that what they're doing is wrong. What can they do? How can they prudently go about
Well,
that?
if they're on social media and they see this, they should actually weigh in and say this is wrong. Not in a scorching, scathing sort of way, or in a holier than thou sort of way, so they are, hurling lightning bolts. But they should just tell them in a charitable way that you may not realize it, that you're dressing very provocatively. I ask you, please stop. It's not good for your soul and souls of others, and it's certainly not pleasing to God. Now, someone who dresses that way will either ignore them or come back at them. Generally not with gratitude. Thank you for pointing that out. I did not know. Although, you never know. By the grace of God, somebody might face the fact. But they would be exposing themselves to ridicule, possibly worse. But it would be the right thing to do. I mean, when the apostles went out, they had to address these things. It was just like the whole world was Sodom and Gomorrah back then. And the apostles had to go out and they had to address these things. And they were willing to do so for our Lord's sake, and they paid the price for it.